So in this video, I'm going to show you how to create this garden hose hanger. It is super easy to make. It doesn't take many materials, and it's definitely what I would consider a beginner project. Now, if you can see behind me, I got a mess back here. My kayaks are back here. My grill's back here. I've been storing those items in my garage/shop, and it's a single car garage for last month and a half or so. We started building a pool in the backyard, and there was no place for those to go, so I had to move them into the garage for the time being. So if you wondered why that stuff's sitting in my driveway, well, that's why. But pool's almost done, so hopefully those can get out of here soon and I'll have my space back. Now, to get into this build, I remember back when I was teaching, we had a wood magazine that had plans in it, and I remember seeing one of a garden hose hanger with kind of a decorative cutout on the front of it. And that's kind of what gave me the idea of doing this. And it was a long time ago. I looked up the issue, and it was back in the early 2000s. So long time ago. But it kind of stuck in my mind. And so that's what we're going to build. Instead of, and in the front of it, in the center, I'm actually going to take the board to the CNC, and I'm going to cut out a palm tree. We live in Florida near the beach, so I thought that would be appropriate. I'm going to paint one of these in like a coral color, and I'm going to paint the other one in a white color, I think. Now this project only requires a 12-foot 1x6, and we're using pressure treated pine for this. Other than that, maybe some standard paint and screws for assembly, and you're good to go. So we're going to get started. I'm going to cut these boards to length and start getting the assembly done. This should be a pretty quick project, so let's get going. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is cut everything to length. This item, the thing we're making here, it's going to have a back and a front that are going to be identical. So I need to just cut double of each piece. So I'm going to cut the vertical pieces that go across the front and the back first. Then I'm going to cut a hose holder type of piece that's going to be like a support for these slats second. Now I gotta put an arc on this. So that's what we're creating. We'll make two of those. And so I'm making the inner piece right here. And that's gonna be a support for slats that are gonna hold the hose. So what I need to do is I need to establish where that arc ends on each end. And I also want to establish the midpoint here. And I'm going to use, I don't have a compass actually. So there's another way you can make arcs that is fairly accurate without a compass. So we're going to show you how to do that right here. A little trick. So you need the midpoint, you need the start and the end point, and you actually need that extra set of hands. So I'm going to have to recruit my wife to come out here and give me help with this. All right, so what you got to do is, I found a flimsy piece of wood, and you have to have the marks, and you just bend it until it flexes and hits your marks, and then you got to trace the inside of it. So I'm trying to line it up right now. That's pretty good. Go ahead and trace. And then we're going to cut that out, and then I'll use this as a template for all the rest of them. Now I'm just going to cut it out with a handheld jigsaw. So that should make a good template then for the rest of them. Again, since I'm making 2 of these, it's gonna be easier just to have a template to trace than it is me to redraw that every time. So that should be helpful, should save me some time. All I gotta do now is trace them and cut them. So cut this one out and then we'll move on to the next step. So now I'm gonna cut the palm tree out on this piece. Now obviously this is optional. You don't need a CNC, you could use a jigsaw, you could use a scroll saw. You do not have to cut a design out at all. This is just something I wanted to do. So I might as well show it. Hey, I wanted to jump in here real quick and just talk to you about an online community that I created. Just like I'm sure many of you are, I'm a member of these woodworking Facebook groups. And one thing I've noticed that I really didn't like is the negativity and the criticism that you often see in those groups. There's so many people that don't want to be helpful, that are there just to criticize what people are doing, especially in the beginner groups. And I hate it. It really is bad for our hobby. So what I did was I created my own community. It's on my website. And there, what my goal with that is to just foster a positive group where everybody's helping each other, so that if you have a question, you aren't afraid to ask, because somebody's going to be a jerk about their response. So I'm going to put a link down in the description to find this. So go on down there and check it out. There are going to be some questions that you have to answer before you join. And one of them is just that you acknowledge that you're responsible for knowing how to safely work in the shop. It's very important you answer those, because if you do not answer them, I just won't approve your membership request. It's just one stipulation that I've made that I really don't want to go back on. So answer those questions and join. And I'm really looking forward to getting to know you in there. Now let's get back to this build. Hey, before I go any further, I'm going to cut all the other pieces that are going to be the pieces that run from the front to the back. So I have 2 side pieces. And these just need trimmed a little bit. And then I have to cut this into 3 pieces, and those are going to go around the arc towards the top. So I'll trim this down. I have a few boards that have frays on them, so I'm just going to hit it with a sander just to knock those edges off and just kind of clean it up a little bit. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to prime these all, and that way when it comes time to paint, I'm actually going to prime and paint at least the front because of that cutout. I'm going to do a 2-tone, so the behind the palm tree is going to be white and the rest of it's going to be another color. And so I'm going to do all that before I assemble. I will be cutting the top, an arc on the top of the front pieces and the back pieces. I don't have that arc yet. It's kind of going to be determined after it gets assembled. So I will have to touch that up with paint after assembly. So I'm gonna paint just one side of these for now, and then I'll paint everything else. I gotta paint both sides of the front of this palm tree, but everything else I'm gonna paint when it's assembled. So this is just gonna be make it easier for me when it's assembled to get everything covered. All right, we're gonna start with assembly here. I moved outside because I really didn't feel like moving all my stuff back out here, kayak and all that stuff. So I'm gonna start with the back assembly. So I'm gonna look at these boards. I'm just looking to see if any of these are just kind of junky. I want to make them face the wall. So like this one's junky. Make it face the wall. That'd be a good one for the back. I'll start with this. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna screw it to it, and then I'll bring the other pieces in and screw those on as well. So just check my measurements here. All right. I'll make a couple marks where I want this thing to be, so I'm sure to get it nice and straight. Get the center point marked here. And I'll do the center on here. Now I'm going to just check for squareness, just because I'm a little bit worried that something's not quite square. It's pretty good. Now these, I just want to line up the bottoms. I'm going to cut an arc on the top, so the bottoms are all I need. All right, so there's one. This I gotta be careful where I screw it because of the cutout. I know that this is not going to cover the whole design. I have another piece that I can attach there that I pre-painted yesterday. Not structural, just aesthetic. So I got a little bit of a gap here. I'm going to close that in and screw it. That's a lot better. Do the same thing here. Line at the bottom. Make sure it's tight. Now for these other blocks. So these are designed just to go like this. All right, so what we're going to do here is I'm going to drill and countersink some holes. Let's get this off of here. Now for this, I'm going to use a little bit longer screw, just because I want it to really make sure we hold together here. This is going to hold one side together to the other side, and so there's just want to make sure it's nice and strong. Now, the reason I countersunk those and pre-drilled them is because it was going to split here. I already started drilling one and it split, and so I decided to make sure I did it right. That's something I tend to forget to do sometimes, is just pre-drill holes. It's easy to get carried away. But if you forget, it can be a problem. Okay, so that's the back done. I'm thinking maybe I should cut this arc. so I can trace it. Let's do that. In order to make this arc, we're going to do the exact same thing that we did to make the other arc. So I'm going to make a measurement. Now I'm going to paint this again, so I'm not too worried, although I am a little worried it's peeling. Ooh. So I ran into a few problems. I was painting all this stuff, and I have it painted now. But I had an issue with the paint sticking. So you can see it was peeling off in sheets. Not 100% sure what the problem was. Definitely a bonding issue on the wood. Could be a couple things. It could be the primer just wasn't good. It could be that the wood was too wet. I did use pressure treated wood, and I mean, I should have thought about this when I bought the wood. It didn't necessarily need to be pressure treated since I was painting it. It's also sitting back far enough from the house. My house has a pretty wide eave on it. It comes out from the house. So it probably wouldn't have been in the weather. It could have gotten wet just from the hose, but I'm not sure that I needed pressure treated. And if you know anything about pressure treated, a lot of times when you buy them, especially at the big box stores, the wood was sitting outside right before they brought it in. So, and this was the same way. I know when I cut it on the CNC, the sawdust felt damp and clumpy kind of, and I know I've cut enough wet boards in the past that I know exactly why that is. It's because it was wet. When I cut a normal dry board on the CNC, it makes normal sawdust. So it could have been a combination of things. Now, the remedy I had, actually, I was using as a Valspar paint and primer, interior exterior paint. So I thought it'd be fine. And then the paint on top of it, that's just a Sherwin-Williams paint. That's an exterior paint. I used it for my front door. So I knew the paint was fine. I didn't know if the primer was fine. I think that was part of the issue, because as I basically stripped it off twice and sanded it down and stuff, finally I just decided to hit it with some Rust-Oleum paint and primer spray paint, and just to see if that would bond to the wood. And it actually did. It worked well. It bonded to the wood. The paint bonded to the primer. And so I think we're good to go. We're going to finish assembling this and hopefully hang it on the house so I have a hose hanger here. So just like before, we'll line this up. And I'm going to screw it in. So I think I'm making a change to this plan. I'd made these blocks, and my intentions were to place them spaced out on this upper thing as an extra support. I think the hose can just hang on these two items here. So, since I'm eliminating that, and here's the reason why. I see the underside of where this meets the side as a potential place for wasps to build their nests. I don't want to go to get my hose and I get stung. Trying to avoid that, and so I think I'm just going to eliminate this just because of that reason. So having said that, if you were building this, first of all, we're not going to need these. Take those off the plans. Secondly, technically these pieces right here didn't need to be curved. I think that they're still necessary. It helps pull everything together, and it helps make this stronger. So it gives some place for these two side pieces to attach. But do they really need to be, it doesn't really need to be arced, because it's not going to matter. So I think that this is assembled. We're going to call it assembled. Now I noticed right here as I was doing this, I do have some paint chipped. So I am going to just go over this whole thing again with some more paint before I hang it on the house, just to make sure. So I'm going to hit this with a little bit of primer, let it dry, paint the whole thing, and then I think we're ready to hang it. Alright, so I have placement for this. I'm going to go right above this, about this high. Now, one thing I thought of after the fact is, because I screwed the front on, it's going to be hard for me to drill these holes and mount it to the wall. So I'm actually going to take the front back off. It just takes 2 screws out on each side. Take it off, mount the back to the wall, and then hold the front back on and screw it back in place. So I'm figuring this out as I go. So yeah, I know there's extra steps, but hey, this is real. So I'm gonna get started on taking these screws out, and we'll level this thing up and get it placed where we want it. Hey, so there you have it. As you can see, it's a fairly simple project. It looks good, and with the design, you can do whatever you want. You don't have to do a design at all. It's just something I wanted to add. Thought it would look good, thought it would fit our setting. I'm sitting out here in our new pool patio with no water in the pool yet. It's still in the process of being built. Hopefully in the next week we'll be done. But I thought this would be a good addition to back here in this space. So thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions, drop them down in the comments below. Don't forget to check out my community and hit that like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.